Hello everyone, welcome to Boho Bookworm and welcome to my video where I discuss some thrillers that sound absolutely phenomenal that I really want to read before the end of the year. The first one being The It Girl by Ruth Ware. Now, that is something coming from me because I have never liked a Ruth Ware book before. She has been likened to Agatha Christie, who is an author that I've never read before, but I've discovered in my years of reading that more kind of slow-paced mystery crime books just are not my thing. I get quite bored with them. Ruth Ware as an author, all of the books I've read of hers have just really bored me to tears, but The It Girl does sound really, really good. It is about this girl called Hannah, and Hannah finds this body of April, and 10 years later, it comes out that, you know, she never really kind of questioned the things that she found out about the murder. Turns out she might have put an innocent man in prison. Oops. So even though it's been about 10 years, Hannah is starting to kind of question things, and that includes her own friends, which puts her own life at risk. Because she's questioning if she put an innocent man behind bars, she is starting to think, maybe, you know, someone I know did this to April. Who knows? We're gonna find out. Like I said, don't really like Ruth Ware normally, but this one does sound quite good, so I'm excited to read this before the end of the year. Then we have Survive the Night by Riley Sager. Now, Riley Sager is a bit hit and miss for me. I've just finished his book, what was it called? The House Across the Lake. And I don't know, I thought that it was, I'll leave my full review for my September wrap up, but I feel like it was just trying way too hard to kind of recreate aspects of, you know, Sarah Pinborough and The Woman in the Window, the Girl on the Train, Behind Her Eyes, all those kind of books. I was just like do something original and maybe you'll get a better outcome. The only book that I've really loved from Riley Sager was Lock Every Door. Everything else has just kind of been like, okay for me. Survive the Night is probably, I think it's the only book I have not read by this author. I am excited to see what I think, and hopefully it's going to be more believable than The House Across the Lake, because my god, that book took a turn for the worst. Survive the Night is about this girl called Casey, and she thinks that she's being driven across country by a serial killer that was kind of targeting people on the campus. They connected through this like college rideshare app, and now as they're on this drive, she is starting to notice kind of like discrepancies between what he's saying to her, and not everything's adding up. So she's like, shit, could I be in serious trouble here? As the title suggests, she has to try and survive the night with a potential serial killer, and that just sounds like a lot of fun to me. That being said, the book that I'm currently busy writing is about, like, you know, it's all set around an evening or a weekend, and I find it's really hard to capture everything that you need to say if a book is only taking place over, like, say 24 to 48 hour periods. There's just so much that needs to be built, and character building and all this stuff, and I find it really difficult when a book is set over such a short period of time. Don't know how it's going to go, but I'm looking forward to it. The next one is a book that I have been seeing quite a lot of lately, and that is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This cover is so pretty. I don't say that I like books just for their covers, but this is one that I do really actually want a physical copy of for that reason. I mean, it's really pretty. So, on the night of Halloween, Daisy Darker is going to her grandmother's 80th birthday in Cornwall. The house is perched on this tiny private island and kind of like crumbling apart, so it's already setting that kind of eerie tone. So the Darker family have not been together for about a decade altogether. When the tide comes in and that tiny island leaves them all stranded on that one little bit of property, there is no way to escape. The premise says, when the tide goes back out, nothing will be the same because one of them is a killer. Don't know what that means. Are they going to murder one of their own family members? I don't know, but I am there for it. Cannot wait to read this one. The next book is The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell. This is the sequel to a book that I absolutely loved, The Family Upstairs. So in London, in the early morning of June 2019, on the River Thames, a bag of bones is discovered. Human bones. The bones are sent away for a forensic analysis, and it turns out that they belong to the body of this young woman who was murdered by a blow to her head. The bag did not only contain the bones though, they also contained like a series of clues, one of them being this funny seed that the detective on the case kind of knows originates from or stems from the house from the first book where 30 years ago 3 people lay dead on the ground and a baby was just lying upstairs waiting to be found. There could be a potential link. Most certainly there is. It has been a long time since I read The Family Upstairs. I might have to go back and reread my review of it just to freshen up my memory, but I cannot wait. I remember loving it and I just can't wait to dive on in, and I really hope that I enjoy it. The next one is called The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, and I have not heard anything about this book on BookTube or Bookstagram. It's just one that I stumbled across while I was looking for a new audiobook, and it sounded really, really good. So I believe that this book is told in first person, and it's this girl that goes to work for this family called the Winchesters as the housemaid, and they are very wealthy, very perfect seeming. She tries to overlook how the main woman of the household, Nina, makes a mess just so that she can watch her clean it up. The husband, Andrew, just seems like the shell of a broken human, and Nina is also kind of telling a lot of lies about their own daughter. So then this main character that we are following in this book, she starts to notice Andrew and be like, you know what, you were actually quite handsome. And she starts thinking about Nina's life, and she's like, you know what, like I could love a life like this. I don't know what she's going to do, but it sounds like a bit of an obsession story, and I do tend to love those. Apparently, she tries on one of Nina's dresses when she thinks no one's there, and Nina catches her, like a really beautiful white dress, and then she realizes that her bedroom only locks from the outside, and Nina catches her in the dress, and then it's too late. She's fucked. I mean, I think it's gonna be like kind of a hostage. I don't know, I have no idea, but it sounds really exciting, because at one stage you're like, oh, it could be the story of obsession, and then it's like, oh no, but then Nina's gonna like take control and get rid of the bitch. But then after all that, you're already like, whoa, what direction is this going to go in? Then there's also an element where at the end of the premise it says, well, they don't know who I really am or what I'm really capable of. So the main character could just turn around and be like, right, get ready, let's fight. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so excited. The next book is another one that I don't think I've heard much about at all, but that really surprises me, because she is the host of a really famous podcast called Crime Junkie. It's called All the Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. This is said to be a mashup of I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is a sensational book, and Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, and I'm just like, I mean, you just said 2 of my favourite books. I am here for this. This is a book about Margot Davies, who is this aspiring investigative journalist, and she's trying to figure out what happened to January, not the month, January Jacobs. She's a person, or I guess a child. She was 6 years old and she was murdered. The case of her murder is decades old and has kind of gone cold, but then this new information gets uncovered and Margot just becomes absolutely obsessed with the case, trying to solve it, trying to figure out what happened. When January died, her family found her just hours later. She was dead in a ditch and there was like spray paint all up their walls and stuff, so it's a horrifying case. And I think that because Ashley Flowers does discuss, and you know, she's in that world of all this horrible true crime stuff that, you know, is very real, very gritty, I think that she's not going to shy away from those facts, and I think it's going to be excellent. Then we've got The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, which I have heard a fair bit about lately, and it sounds quite heavy, to say the least. This is the author of the book In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which I have not read and don't really plan to because I didn't hear great things about, but this premise sounds really good and I am finding myself quite intrigued. So this is a book kind of around cults. It's about this woman called, or a girl called Shay Evans, and while still in school, in college I believe, she and her friend meet this man who kind of like seduces them into this strange and funny world that he's concocted in his head. He does have quite a lot of people that he has brought into his world that he's created and all the lies that he's formed, but Shay and her friend, eventually they managed to escape. But then years later, Shay's friend has passed away. Shay really likes true crime podcasts, and she is like horrified to find out that her friend has passed away, but the news came from the true crime podcast that she loves. So I gather like Shay reaches out to the host of the podcast and she's like, well, this is my best friend, and she gets their help. So they go off to investigate the death together. Sounds pretty interesting to me. Then we have A Familiar Strange by A.R. Torre, who wrote The Girl in 6E. This is a book about this woman called Lillian Smith. She is just really quite boring. She is quiet, she is mundane. No one's going to realise that she's done anything a little bit weird, will they? She writes obituaries, she's got a son who's pretty disconnected from her, you know, that her relationship with her husband is, you know, just mediocre at best. And then she meets David, this attractive, handsome stranger. They meet in a coffee shop, and so begins this quite intimate affair. Saucy. Lillian decides that she's going to reinvent herself and create this whole new exciting persona that has nothing to do with her really shit and boring life that she's got, because she wants to have some fun for once. She is loving life. But then one day, when she thinks she is literally untouchable, stupid bitch, the truth about her affair comes out on her son's social media platforms. So now she's not only got to worry about her marriage, but also her reputation. Serves her right, if you ask me. So this is all about lies and betrayal, and everything just gets intensified, and I think it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. I do love A.R. Torre. So they are some of the books that I am very much looking forward to diving on into before the end of the year. Let me know if any of them tickle your fancy, and if you've got any books that you're really excited for. If I looked harder, there probably would be so many more books to add to this list, but for now I will say goodbye, and I'll talk to you soon.